Welcome back to another episode of the Miracle Marketing Podcast, where we bring you interviews from business owners, celebrity guests, and hot topics. I'm your host, Brandon Adams, along with my co-host, super producer, Big Perion. What's going on, Big Perion?
Chilling. How about yourself, brother?
Doing great. Got a few thunderstorms coming through in the area. How's everything out there in Atlanta?
It's pretty good. The sun is going down. It's getting a little cloudy, but it's pretty good. It's been a good day.
All right, that's good to hear. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you would like to be a guest on the show, make sure you send us an email to the Miracle Podcast. And on today, we have a special guest. She is out of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV, and she is studying sports journalism. She's a full-time student in her third year at UNLV, journalism, media studies, and a concentration in sports media. She has an internship with the franchise sports media where she covers UNLV football for the team and also a podcast that is aired weekly. And without further ado, we're going to bring our guest on. Her name is Miss Mia Green. Miss Mia Green, welcome to the Miracle Marketing Podcast. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me on here.
No problem. So tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and what made you get started in journalism, and also, when not just journalism, what made you want to concentrate on the sports side of it.
So I come from a small city in New Mexico by the name of Farmington. My biggest influence on why I wanted to focus on sports journalism was definitely my parents. I came into college as a criminal justice major, and growing up, watched a lot of football, watched a lot of basketball. My dad was always, yelling at the TV. I was always partaking in that. And so that was super fun growing up. And I would always see the people on TV reporting on sidelines, and I just always thought it was the coolest thing ever. And so attended a lot of sporting events growing up with my parents, and so that's really what influenced me and what made me want to get into sports journalism.
So this is our young entrepreneur segment of the show, where we highlight young entrepreneurs. You're from a small town in New Mexico. New Mexico doesn't have any professional sports teams. So what teams did you watch when you were going to those games? Was it just college or high school? What was it?
We had really done college, high school. I did go to a lot of MLB games growing up. We would travel to LA or Anaheim and watch the Angels a lot. I've been to some Bronco games. My dad's a Cowboys fan, and so we would always watch the Cowboys, watch the Raiders. Really just around that area. We watched basketball, of course, and so yeah, we were just watching a lot of sports growing up, and so that's what really got me here.
Okay. So is sports journalism, do you want to cover college, collegiate sports, professional sports, or all of it?
Long term, definitely professional sports, but I definitely understand that I got to work my way up the ladder. And right now, covering college football is definitely a step, and it's been a big dream of mine since I was little. So long term, definitely professional, though.
Okay. Perion, you got some questions?
Sure. Were you in high school? Were you active in any sports?
Yeah, I was a dancer, and I was four-year letterman of my high school's dance team, which I went to Pier Vista in Farmington.
Okay. You ever thought about being a cheerleader for any of the teams that you report on?
I don't report on the cheer teams here. I just do football and basketball, but I did consider dancing. I did consider being an NFL cheerleader. That was a thing of mine for a while, but at the end of the day, I decided I wanted to be more involved with football and basketball rather than just cheering on sidelines. So,
and some of your favorite teams?
Football, we're definitely going Raiders. I kind of have to go Eagles too. Jalen Hurts, I'm a Jalen Hurts fan. And then basketball, Miami Heat, and then baseball, Anaheim Angels, of course. And yeah, Cowboys, I do have to say that is my dad's favorite team. So you know how that works. He had me wearing a Tony Romo jersey whenever I was about 9. So
Man, fathers. Salute to all the fathers in the world. Yeah.
It is a game day like a holiday.
I know. Sometimes we even if we have daughters, sometimes we don't look at our daughters as daughters. So we just look at them like our beautiful son. Sometimes we girl dads are they like to follow after what their dads are into most of the time. They don't necessarily become tomboys, but they just look up to, because dads sometimes make things more exciting than moms do. You know, we get into our sports and we're real vocal and animated, and sometimes that catches a little one's eye, and make them want to get active and do the same thing and mimic what they see their dads doing. As far as your schooling, is there do y'all ever have like have y'all setups in journalism where you would get on teams and you I guess like as a test or whatever to see to test your skills? Did y'all ever do anything like that in school?
Yeah, I've taken some classes here. It was a news production class my sophomore year last semester, and we had hands-on work in the studio. We did like rotations where one of us would be the anchor and then the cameraman and audio, all that kind of stuff, behind the scenes, technical directors, all that stuff. So I have had experience with that. And then I'm actually in an editing class right now where we also work hands-on doing editing and filming with cameras and stuff like that. So yeah.
That's dope. That's dope. So on your own, I know Brandon mentioned that you have your own podcast. Do you do a lot of your own editing?
Yeah, I do. I host a podcast with my internship, Franchise Sports Media, and my co-host is Joe Rigo. We do that every week. That just started up for football season, and we
Okay.
do have special guests occasionally. And as far as that, I do mostly outside of my internship, I do promote my own stuff, my own self. I do stand-ups before and after the game, recaps after the games. And yeah, so previously I did work for the Scarlet and Gray newspaper here at UNLV. I've done work for the Rebel HD2 and then Rebel Report, which is an organization, it's a class, but also an organization here at UNLV. I've done all of that last season. And so, yeah.
Do you ever get nervous before you get on camera?
I used to a lot. I used to really kind of, freak out. I'd be like, oh my gosh, like, what am I supposed to say? And then now, like, I've learned a lot more to be more prepared, how to prepare myself better, how to calm my nerves, especially whenever, I'm getting filmed at halftime in front of a crowd and everybody's looking because there's a camera. It's like, I got to calm my nerves and just do my thing and not worry about what's going on around me. That's probably the biggest thing for me, is just not worrying about what's going on around me, who's looking, who's watching, stuff like that.
Do you ever capture any bloopers?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Those are probably the funniest videos I've ever captured. Yeah, definitely.
Because I see a lot of behind the scenes videos that go viral from a lot of sports anchors and stuff. So I know with you doing as much as you're doing, there bound to be some bloopers
Oh,
real
definitely.
somewhere.
100%. Especially, there's always something funny going on either behind me or in front of me. And if I happen to like catch a glimpse whenever I'm like in between, or if I wanted to redo the pregame, my pregames always have something crazy going on. Like, example, I had traveled with my dad all the way out to Ann Arbor, Michigan to watch the UNLV game, and I'm filming outside of the stadium, and I witnessed a hit and run.
Wow.
So that's something interesting. And luckily the police were right there. They saw it and everything. And so, yeah, that's something that's happened before. Yeah.
They didn't have to use your footage.
No, it wasn't in the actual hit and run wasn't in my video at all. If you
Okay.
look hear it, you could hear the impact, and you can see my reaction, and I'm like, what just happened? Like, but yeah, there was you couldn't see it at all in my clip.
Cool,
Do you
cool,
want to
cool.
be, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Perry.
Oh no, it's on you.
So do you like being in front of the camera or doing more behind the scenes more, or both?
I personally am more of an in front of the camera person. I feel like that is my best way to showcase, one, who I am, and two, be able to tell the stories of these players on and off the field, behind the helmet. That's like what I'm really passionate about, is bringing something to the table that a lot of reporters may not bring, and separating myself from the crowd. And so I feel like being on camera, that's my easiest way to do so. I have done some behind the camera stuff, which I'm working my skills up to get that going as well, but definitely in front of the camera.
So as a reporter, do you have any female reporters that you follow, like that's on ESPN or any of the NFL networks? Because I know a lot of them, even Molly Querim that's on First Take, she started out on NFL Network.
Yeah, I've always looked up to Erin Andrews and Malika Andrews. I watch her a lot as well. And her sister, Kendra. I love them. I absolutely look up to them all the time. I watched, that was really, Erin Andrews was who I predominantly watched growing up. And so I've always like wanted to do what she does. I just think it's so awesome. And so, yeah.
Okay. If you had a chance to meet Erin Andrews, what are some questions that you would ask her to help you better your career?
I would ask her where she got started and how she got started, on the terms of job applications, things like that, small markets, big markets. I would ask her what are some things that she did in college that helped her get to where she is. I would ask her probably like what her number one tip of advice would be for me. And really, yeah, just advice that she could give for somebody who's already in the industry to somebody who's trying to get into the industry.
Okay. Next question. If you can interview any player, who would it be?
In the NFL, I would definitely say probably Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts.
Nice. What questions would you ask them?
Depending on how I was interviewing them, like whether that's post game or whether that's for a show, or it kind of, my questions vary on the topic. And so if I'm interviewing somebody for a feature, I'm going to ask them more about their background, where they came from, this, that, and the third. But then if I'm post game, I'm obviously going to ask them, like, how did you feel during this play, or walk me through these emotions during what happened during the fourth quarter, so on and so forth. So yeah, my questions kind of vary based on in the setting that I'm interviewing them in. So it would kind of depend on what I was doing it for.
Okay. I have one other question, then I'm going to pass it back to Perry on. So do you just mostly concentrate on football? Because being here in Vegas, you got the Raiders, you got UNLV, you got the Golden Knights that just won the Stanley Cup, and the Aces are doing their things. Do you prepare to, like, if you can ever get into any of the other fields, how would you go about that?
My predominant focus is football and basketball. I haven't gotten to cover a Raiders game at all yet, and looking forward to that soon, maybe within the next year or so, hopefully. But as far as the other industries, or as far as the other sports, I would definitely have to do my homework on hockey. I was not a big hockey girl growing up, never really watched it. I understand it to the part as a fan, but to actually report on it and analyze it, there's no way as of right now. But if I had the opportunity, I would take it, because I take every opportunity I get, to be honest with you. But football and basketball are definitely my focuses, and what I really would like to do long term, which is why I try to get the most experience that I can with both of those sports. So that way it showcases what I can do whenever I'm going actually into the industry after I graduate.
Perry on.
Cool. Do you have you ever had any moments where you weren't supposed to be interviewing, but you kind of like guerrilla style? You just said, I got to capture this, I got to go. Have you ever like just jumped into a situation and created?
Not
Oh,
really. Most of my stuff, whenever I do interview players, it's like assigned. Like I'll know that I'm interviewing them or I'll ask to interview them. And so it's never really been like a just like snatch them after the game. Like with me being still in college, I wouldn't like do anything to like upset anybody, like the athletic directors, the athletic department, anybody in general. So no, I haven't really like done that, and I don't really plan to. It's more of me. I kind of know who I'm interviewing or know who I want to interview, get permission, so on and so forth. They snatch them for me after the game, and then I do my thing.
okay, I guess that is just based on me just watching too many movies, like the Anchorman, where they would see an event going on, and they were in competition to see who could capture this moment, or get the interview first. So that's where the background for that question came from. As far as I know, B was asking you about some of the people that you look up to in journalism. Um, are those the same people that you study as far as like how they carry themselves on TV, and when they're doing an interview, do you pattern yourself after certain people or you create your own style?
I do watch and see, like what they ask, stuff like that. But for the most part, I create my own stuff, create my own questions. Like I said earlier, I try to separate myself from the crowd as much as I can. So yeah, I do definitely watch them as far as learning how to, have that on camera, like, I guess, way of going about things. But as far as like creating questions and story ideas, all of that comes from my own ideas. I really like to, like I said, separate myself from the pack as much as I can.
Okay. What do you think, or what do you do? Is there like a catchphrase, or what type of thing do you do that sets you apart, or makes you stand out? Your style, or.
I would say definitely my attire is something that I really focus on. My attire and my appearance is something that I focus on. And as well, I do have a catchphrase, and for pre-games, I always say "Rebel Up," which is
Mhm.
something that I just started up this year. And then for my podcast, I'll say like "Let's get fired up." That's just something that I like somehow came up with on a random day. And mostly definitely my appearance though is what I would say would deter myself from others. I really like to dress up and just have that kind of on camera style. I love it. So
So basically, what you're saying, most of the other um, female journalists, they're just basic.
oh no, definitely not. The people in the industry like Erin Andrews and Malika, all those girls, they dress to the nines.
Mm-hmm.
And um I try to replicate that in the
Okay.
terms of still being a student.
Mm-hmm.
It's different being a student versus actually being somebody who gets paid to do this. And so I try to replicate those who are actually in the industry rather than wearing like a t-shirt and jeans and stuff like that.
Okay. So you wouldn't dress in like team attire. You would make sure that you're
I'm dressed
basically.
in business attire. I'm dressed to the nines all the time.
That's hot. That's hot. So would you ever consider doing like a reality type of show for journalists?
Yeah, I would consider it. I mean, there's definitely a lot that goes on behind the scenes that many people like don't think of. There's a lot as far as late nights, sometimes where you're just like mentally overdrained and you like are having to push through editing or having to push through getting content out, or you're just like really tired and then you're still having to record a recap, stuff like that. Like that's a lot of the stuff that really goes on behind the scenes that not many people think of. 'Cause, I mean, you see the videos, you know, and you see all these girls that they're just like doing all this stuff for football and basketball and doing features, so on and so forth. And so you don't really see the behind the scenes of the hard work that actually gets put into that.
Yeah, I guess I would wonder if there would be any type of drama associated with it, like anchors fighting over style or who's hotter than, you know.
Personally, I haven't had any issues with it. I stick to my own, mind my own business and get my job done. So I've never had any like issues at all. But I also, like I said, I stay out. If there were to be an issue, I have no idea about it.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm,
'Cause
I'm in my own little world, focused, locked in, you know what I'm saying? So
That's great.
I'm pretty sure after a while there would be, I mean, because they do that with just about everything, whether it's music, television, um, and sports. There's somebody out there that's looking at the next person that's coming on the scene and you know, up and coming and beginning to get their shine, and they try to do something or say something slick to try to knock that person so they don't take that spotlight. But you're very confident even on here. Your presentation, the way you answer your questions and stuff is very, very, very polished. So I could see in the near future you being the person that everybody's paying more attention to, you know, so they better watch out.
I'm coming for your job. I'm telling you. I'm working my way up the spider, you know, like I said earlier, I'm really just doing absolutely everything that I can to get my name out there, showcase what I can do. Like I said, there's a lot of hard work that comes from it. Like I mentioned also, come from a very small town. There's no professional sports, two colleges, New Mexico State and UNM, but a lot of people from my town typically stay in my hometown for college or in my home state for college. And so moving here to Las Vegas from New Mexico was definitely a big step for me. 8 hour drive away from my family. That can definitely be hard at points, especially one where it's like a low day, anything along those lines. But I just pushed through it and make do with what I got.
I had a question for you because you're in school, you're also a reporter. How do you balance all of those things and also getting your homework done?
To be real with you, I don't know. I don't know. I actually work two jobs as well. I work a remote job, and I really just try to plan out my day as much as I can. My work schedule is consistent. And my school schedule is as well. So I typically have like a routine that I go about on a weekly basis. Like example, Mondays, I know I have a coaches and players press conference at the facility on Mondays. And so before that I have work, after that I also have work. And so I kind of just know what I'm doing each day and on average how much homework I have. I kind of base that off of how busy my day is outside of homework. If I have work, if I have football, if I have any of that kind of stuff, typically I just balance out. Like I'll say, okay, well, I'm going to do one assignment on this day, two assignments on this day, three assignments on this day, so on and so forth. I typically just try to balance it like in that terms. But as far as like the workload of everything and all of that, honestly, I don't know. Somehow I do it. I just get it done somehow, some way. Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. Working two jobs, school and doing your profession and stuff. I mean, I know it takes money to be fly, and that camera is pressure. Being on that camera is pressure. So
Absolutely.
I know, you know, that's a lot goes into that. what is your what do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you have a any type of outside of journalism and you know, schooling and stuff? Are there any hobbies that you're interested in?
I love cooking, actually. That is something that my family has taught me early on how to cook. I love cooking, I love baking. My number one passion, I would say, outside of football is just making people smile and being the light in somebody's day. I know that sounds very corny, but that is my number one passion. I just love to, be the light in somebody's day, or somebody might not be having a good day. And if I could just, make them laugh, that's definitely my passion. So within the terms of 5 to 10 years, my dream is, like I said, to be sideline reporting for the NFL. And
Mhm.
so hopefully by that point, I know I'll be working my way up the ladder because I'm continuing to have that motivation and drive to get there. But maybe within 10 years at that point, I'll already be there, just depending on, circumstances and how far I can get in the next 5 years or so.
So
That's good.
just to piggyback off of what Perion said, and you said you like to cook and bake, and I know you also said that you covering the NBA and also NFL. Are you familiar with Serge Ibaka at all?
Not that no, I don't think so. I'm not
Okay.
recognizing the name.
So you should check him out because Serge Ibaka plays in the NBA and he also has a cooking show. And he features a lot of the different players on his show. So that would be somebody that you would want to check out and possibly also interview, watch his show from time to time. The other thing I wanted to ask you, have you experienced, I don't know so far as with college football, but if you were to get into professional football where they come off of a bad game or a high intense game, like going into the playoffs and they're upset they lost, do they prepare you on how to handle them when you got to report or ask a question that they may not like? Because you see a lot of the reporters sometimes get into it with the players. Is that something that they give you media training for?
Really, it's mostly self-taught, I would say. My internship, he's also my mentor, Joe Rigo. He is my co-host for the show, the podcast that I do. He gives me a lot of advice when it comes to that. But as far as really dealing with somebody that just had, like a bad game or a lot of emotions, I think for me, that's being a human and a person who cares about how other people feel. I definitely avoid asking questions that they don't want to hear as much as I can. I mean, there's some things that people want to know, and there's different ways to phrase it to where it doesn't sound so bad to somebody who just lost a game. Like, I mean, you're not going to ask them, why did X play happen and why did you X do this? It wouldn't be like that kind of question. It would be more on the terms of, how did this happen and what was the background, what was going on in the background at that point. I wouldn't really like dig too deep into the negative aspect of it, especially with a loss. And if it's a big loss, that can definitely be difficult. And 99% of the time, a player is not going to want to deal with media in general, but especially like media who's like inconsiderate of others' feelings. I give my 110% effort to be considerate of players' feelings, coaches' feelings, fans' feelings, as much as I can.
But sometimes if you work for a major network, they have you ask those questions that pushes the players' buttons. How would you handle that?
I would handle it in the best way that I could without I would do my job, I would do my job and phrase it in the best way that I could, as far as not being, because there's a difference between being negative, having to ask a negative question versus being negative about asking a negative question.
Mhm.
I feel like it comes with a lot of the energy and the way you go about it and the way you, come up to the player and ask them a question. It's a lot of the background that people wouldn't see. Preparation really, that I would say is how I would go about it. I have had some situations where we've had to interview players and coaches in a press conference after a loss and stuff like that. So I have dealt with that a little bit, and really just working my way to get to where I feel proficient in interviewing somebody after a loss. Not that I'm not proficient now, but I mean, there's always room to work. There's always room to improve. And so I feel like my best way to go about it is just to get my job done with not necessarily a negative ask. There's no reason to be negative about asking a negative question.
Okay, well, we're almost out of time. Is there anything that you want to leave with your viewers? Where to follow you? Any inspiration you have for any young entrepreneurs that are coming up that want to pursue what you're doing?
I would say my number one advice is to definitely take every opportunity you can get. There's a lot of competitiveness in the field, and you got to understand you have to work your way up the ladder, but also, like I said, take every opportunity you get, even if you're scared, just take the jump, just go for it. Everyone can follow me on social media at @MiaGreen_sports, which is MIAGREEN_sports. And yeah, that's really all I got. I would like to say a huge, huge thank you to all of my family and friends who have helped get me to this point, and a huge thank you to you guys for having me on your guys' show. I really appreciate you guys.
No problem.
Thank
Carry
you.
on. You got anything?
I just want to say that a cooking show where you create meals for game night would be dope. That would be dope.
You can definitely consider.
That would be dope. You're asking questions and you're cooking, and that would be dope. That would be dope.
Well, Mia, we would love to have you back on. Contact us anytime. We'll get this interview out to you so you could promote it to, your audience and everything. And we'll love to have you back. If you have any questions, don't hesitate, reach out to us. And thank you again for taking the time out to be on the show. And everyone, that's Mia Green. Make sure you follow her. Make sure you check her out at the UNLV games. She's on our highlight for today for the Young Entrepreneur segment. If we have any other young entrepreneurs, or you know of any young entrepreneurs, reach out to us at amiraclepodcast@gmail.com. Send over their bios, send over their headshots. We would love to highlight them on the show. And thank you again, Mia. Carry on. Have a good day in the ATL.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, Mia. We really enjoyed it. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.